Let's do this Ben Shapiro thing. So Ben Shapiro is struggling. We played this a little earlier with the Luigi Mangione story. And he's struggling because the reaction among his audience has been pretty much like, dude, you're out of touch. I kind of understood it. This ain't it, man. I'm a conservative, but I've had all these issues with health insurance companies, with getting ripped off, with privatized healthcare. So like on the political level, this is not bipartisan. We would not get a single payer system or a public option, even under a Republican administration. They're talking about repealing the patient protection parts of the Affordable Care Act. But the regular people, it is. It's cross-partisan, it's bipartisan. The only differences are when class gets involved. And Ben Shapiro here is representing the upper class in his commentary. So he reads Luigi Mangione's manifesto, which talks about the greed of pharmaceutical companies and calls them parasites and speaks to the pain that he was in. And Ben Shapiro wants to fact check. He has a fact check about how actually the United States healthcare system, despite your lived experience showing you that it's completely expensive and you pay in every month and you don't get the benefits that you're supposedly getting for your money when you make those payments. Actually, it's the best system in the world. So he's engaging in a mass gaslighting of his audience, and I'm very much enjoy it. This video got a lot of views. He's not doing that as well as I thought he would be doing when I went to his channel. This got the most because he included Bill Burr in the title and said he was a jackass or something. He says that for around 30 seconds before launching into an ad read, but this was the bulk of it. An effort to debunk what everybody understands is the reality about their healthcare in this country.
You know, as we discussed yesterday on the program, is that this particular person, Mangione, he had had some sort of surfing accident where he had a really bad back injury that apparently left him in crippling pain. And he had a surgery that is very often unsuccessful that implanted a series of pins in his spine. And he presumably was having some sort of fights with some health insurance company, but that is totally unclear. And he did leave a manifesto. His manifesto is very short. It's 262 words. And it is worth exploring because it is a window into the mind of people who tend to believe that because the world is filled with problems, this means you get to shoot people, which is unfortunately a growing sentiment
Israel?
On the left and even some parts of the right. So here is what the alleged shooter actually wrote. Quote, "To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the, and then it's handwritten, so indecipherable, largest company in the U.S. by market cap behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No, the reality is these blank have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have the space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed decades ago, and the problem simply remains. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Okay, there are a couple of key lines here that are quite amazing in this manifesto. One is, obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have the space, and frankly, do not pretend to be the most qualified person to...
So this is the tack that a lot of our liberal friends writing for Vox or saying like, hey, maybe we should take a look at anesthesiologists too. They're trying to make this more complex than it is. And they zero in on that line because it makes the case for them without them actually having to argue it. It's not actually that complex. Frankly, he's being humble there. It's fairly clear that these are parasites. I don't care that a murderer just said that. These are parasites that serve no reason in our healthcare system. But let's let Ben go.
But it is. Thank you, Ben, for reading that in full for your audience.
Yeah.
Now tell them why they're so wrong to maybe have related to that.
Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have the space, and frankly, do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. In other words, he didn't have a solution for any of the health insurance problems in the country. And those problems are quite real because the United States has a very heavily subsidized and regulated healthcare system. Insurance is not actually insurance. It's actually just health coverage. Insurance, as we mentioned yesterday on the show, would imply that you are making a bet with the insurance company that something bad might happen to you and the insurance company is betting that it will not happen to you, that is obviously not how healthcare works in the United States. Because no company in their right mind would bet.
That is nonsense.
Sorry, we actually just let nobody in their right mind would bet, and then we can...
Yeah. Keep going.
Health coverage. Insurance, as we mentioned yesterday on the show, would imply that you are making a bet with the insurance company that something bad might happen to you and the insurance company is betting that it will not happen to you. That is obviously not how healthcare works in the United States. Because no company in their right mind would bet that, for example, you won't need a checkup next week. Right? That would be a stupid bet. So this isn't insurance at all. It's health coverage that is provided at discount based on government subsidy.
Which, by the way, is Obamacare. So
betting,
he's touting the subsidies.
Imagine if you were betting on, say, basketball, and you've bet against the Lakers. And actually, it's within your power as a bettor, you're just gambling, speculating on this stuff, to deny LeBron James prior authorization to throw Anthony Davis an alley-oop. Like, what is this metaphor at all? This is not just people look at things. And when it comes to betting, people do actually bet all the time on their health. Regarding, like, say, I am actually not going to be covered this year because I'm 27 or whatever and in decent health, and I don't want to take that out of my meager pay cut already because I already can't pay fucking rent to all the other people that own politicians. So, like, this is a absurd comparison.
Claim. And he says it's coverage. No, that's not accurate at all, because coverage is often denied. That's what your audience is telling you, that many things are not covered. And when they are, they're often extremely expensive and require arduous work where you're calling and you're making claims. The problem is this is not universal coverage. It is just insurance, and it's shoddy insurance at that, where they use like any excuse in the book to deny you coverage, because what he's obscuring is that for-profit healthcare is incompatible with healthcare because they make more money by denying you in their insurance claim process than they do both providing you care.
Because if you died, they don't have to pay any of that out anymore.
Exactly. So here's some more gobbledygook from this pretend intellectual.
You won't need a checkup next week. Right? That would be a stupid bet. So this isn't insurance at all. It's health coverage that is provided at discount based on government subsidy.
Oh, it's
and
discounted.
Also
that's nice.
Based on collective risk pooling. Okay, that's actually how the system works, and the system doesn't work particularly well in a lot of ways.
That's how it should work. But we actually don't have collective risk pooling. We have a whole bunch of different risk pools that you get into based on where you're employed and if you're employed. And if you're not, you're actually not part of that risk pool. Just go to the fucking ER.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, and that the government should be... Brunig has a great piece that everyone should read. Healthcare administration wastes $500 billion every year. It's interesting that the government sort of efficiency guide doesn't care about all this bureaucratic waste going on in healthcare system. But Brunig's one piece here. To get your head around why this is, think for a second about what happens to every $100 you give to a private insurance company. According to the most exhaustive study of the CBO in 2020, the first thing that happens is 16 of those dollars are taken by the insurance company. From there, the insurer gives the remaining 84 to a hospital to reimburse them for services. That hospital takes another 15, almost $16 for administration, meaning that only $68 of the original $100 actually goes to providing care. In a single payer system, the solution that apparently, like, Shapiro doesn't think that our killer could have arrived at, but I think probably given a few more years probably could have found out that in a single payer system, the path of that $100 looks a lot different. Rather than take $16 for insurance administration, the public insurer would only take $1.60. And rather than take that almost $16 for the remaining money for hospital administration, the hospital will only take $11, meaning that $86.60 of the original $100 goes to providing care. The difference is just graft. The difference is just Brian Thompson buying a house and providing for his family that's, in such tough position. But I bet you he had a life insurance policy. I bet they're going to be kind of okay. As for the people who United Healthcare goes on denying coverage for, or delaying coverage, or sort of running out the clock so maybe they die, so we have to approve all of this expensive stuff, that's happened before December 4th, happened on December 4th, happening every day since.
The insurance is definitionally risk pooling.
Then there should be one giant risk pool.
Exactly. But it's segmented and controlled by cartels, and that's why the price is so high. He can't explain the concept of co-payments or any of that kind of stuff, which would completely wipe away his argument here. But I find this fascinating because he's working overtime to try to convince his audience not to believe their lying eyes. He's engaging in mass gaslighting, and he's doing a poor job of it. So let's keep breaking this down because he brings out some fancy graphs.
Pooling. Okay, that's actually how the system works, and the system doesn't work particularly well in a lot of ways. It works better than many of the other systems, including nationalized healthcare. But the point there is that the alleged shooter himself is angry at a system that he says he does not fully understand and he has no proper solutions for. And by the way, he happens to be wrong on the merits. So when he says that the United States has the most expensive healthcare system in the world, but we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy, there's an excellent thread from a person named Jeremy Kaufman laying out some of the statistics with regard to the United States healthcare system. And the point that he makes is that healthcare spending in all countries tracks income. In other words, the more people get rich, the more they spend on healthcare. And this is true across countries. Here, for example, is a chart of health spending increasing rapidly with real income.
All right, pause it for a sec. For example, so we can have this bullshit up on the screen as we're looking at it. If you look, the USA is really high up there. Still, so even with the graph, in terms of what he's purportedly showing here, that is healthcare spending as it relates to income, it still means there, I guess, I'm trying to make sense of that.
It just means we spend a lot on healthcare.
We just spend a lot on healthcare.
Fucking no. And
right.
we'd be spending a lot less if we didn't allow these providers to play different insurers off each other and like scam the system. If there was one single payer for health insurance,
right, they
would be able to negotiate all this stuff way lower, including the anesthesiologists that apparently like Eric Levitz wants to point out. So yeah, this is
no, but
wait. So is this chart supposed to be saying that like the more money you make, the more you spend in healthcare? Like is that what? I mean, there's a really simple, like across the board in any country, there's a real simple argument for that. It's because when you have more money, you can do that stuff. You can go, like, even if I have health insurance and, you know, luckily I'm in fairly good health, but I don't go to the doctor for small bore things like wealthier people do. You know, wealthy people, something's bothering them, they go to the doctor, they get a prescription and they solve the issue. I don't got the time for that. I don't got the money to lay out for the medications. So I just deal with whatever the small problem is. And if it fucks me over later in life, so be it. That's what I get for not having the money right now. Like, does he not understand? Like, that's part of the problem.
And we're spending more because a lot less is covered. One, we're spending more because it's privatized and these cartels jack up the prices, right? And that the amount that's spent, if we can put that chart back up there, where you see at the middle there, those countries have either a public option or a mix of public and private, or they just fully have socialized healthcare. But in terms of the United States, it's not that like people are making more money so they boutique want to spend on their own healthcare. It's the fact that so much dental, vision, all of these other procedures that people need are out of network or not covered as well. So what people are paying for healthcare is way too high. And what is essentially not covered, I think, also increases that number of healthcare spending.
And you have to look at it in terms of class, in terms of, every American is just an American, as opposed to some are extremely wealthy and make money passively and some are workers. Here's Bernie Sanders. Here's another statistic I'll throw out, says Bernie. It's not only that our life expectancy is lower than virtually every other wealthy country, it's that if you are working class, you are going to live 5 to 10 years shorter than people who are wealthy. So if you are a working class person in this country, the stress that you live under, the economic duress that you live under, the lack of health care that you are receiving, 5 to 10 years shorter life than people who are rich, all of that is unacceptable. It is not acceptable to Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is being paid to make sure everyone you love who is a working person dies 5 to 10 years later, and all the rich people that pay Ben Shapiro get to benefit from this system that prioritizes the health of rich people and lets them live to like whatever 110. Your family dies and right after they retire.
And do you notice that his definition of health insurance and like betting that you won't have some sort of disaster doesn't even include the idea that people need routine checkups and preventative care checkups prior to that? That it doesn't have to do just with like a traumatic car accident or something like that, or if you have a heart attack. Health insurance is about helping people have healthier, longer lives throughout. But also that real income, I think that's the x-axis. I have no idea what the hell that means. But these are
wealthier countries pay more for healthcare. I don't know why that should be a surprise.
Yeah.
You probably pay more for a lot of things because of all the wealth. I don't know.
But it's how that wealth is allocated.
His whole point seems to revolve around this idea that Luigi Mangione did not understand how to solve the problems or fully understand how the system works in every little aspect. And it's just bullshit that you need to know. You need to have the solution to a problem to address or even come to the realization that there is a problem. It's just it is an unnecessary step. You do not need to have a master's degree in any sort of topic to say what my personal experience with it is wrong. And
it's wrong.
This seems to be his argument. The guy who represents conservatism in the year currently 2024, and the whole idea that the conservatives are the ones going against the idea that the elites or the educated or the specialists or the professors or the PhDs, those people the people who have studied these topics meticulously, they don't know any better than you. The second push comes to shove, they revert right back to that because that's truly what they believe. That's how little they think of you, conservative media viewers. That's how little they think of you. They don't just go to the experts for advice or their expertise because they don't want to give you that. They simply say, you can't have an opinion on things because you aren't an expert. They don't use the good that these people can actually give to you. Their actual studies, their actual knowledge. They don't give you that. They simply say, you aren't them, so you can't have an opinion on it. Yet at the same time, they'll say, but don't educate yourself like those guys, because then you become a piece of shit like those guys. They want you to not understand these things so they can continue to have this foothold over you in telling you to continue to tell you to keep eating dirt and honestly shit from the executives and the people up at the very top who they serve. I mean, it's just so crystal clear what's going on here.
To your point, notice how he didn't even deal with what Mangione said about life expectancy. He moved on to wealth. He didn't even deal with it.
And I mean, this is the thing Tim Pool also said like he was R-worded because for the same reason, he apparently said he didn't have all the answers to it. But this is not just a conservative problem. From Matt Brudning's article, again, at the People's Policy Project, Healthcare Administration wastes $500 billion every year. He points out many tweets and articles from prominent pundits like Matt Yglesias, Dylan Matthews, Noah Smith, and Eric Levitz. Quick consensus among these pundits, these are all liberal pundits, is that dislike of the private insurers is overblown and that the main problem lies with providers and their overcharging ways. This is not honest. I don't think, I'm not saying there's conscious dishonesty on all those people, but I would be shocked if none of them were being consciously dishonest and mercenary in their argument here. But the idea that graphs like this could convince you that actually the private health insurance system in America is all hunky-dory. That is only going to work on a very small sliver of professional class morons.
Well, we're going to read the comment section in a bit, but I wanted to get to that second graph, and then we'll leave you with that.
You live in Hungary and you have a significantly lower income, you're going to spend less on your healthcare. And as your income rises, you're going to spend more on your healthcare. That is true everywhere. It is true in Norway. It is true in Canada. It is true in Italy. It is true in Spain. It is true everywhere. It is almost a straight line arithmetic correlation here.
Oh my goodness.
That as you make more money, you spend more money on your healthcare, which of course makes sense because you care very deeply about your healthcare. That is not
okay. I'm sorry. Actually, just pause it really quickly. You don't even need to take it off the screen. But but the baseline for care in those other countries is that they have some semblance of basic care that people can get. So even if they're spending more because they can when they make more money, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have the same baseline, you idiot.
I went to Paris with somebody who had to spend a night in a hospital for food poisoning, including IVs and stuff like that, and urine tests and stuff like that. We walked out of there paying $0.
All right, keep going.
As it turns out, if you actually correlate healthcare costs with income, what you see is that income rises, so does healthcare costs. Again, not a giant shock. In a rich country, labor costs more.
Oh my God, this is the same thing.
More. The real price of healthcare increases actually slower than incomes in cross-sectional analysis. So as income in the United States increases, so does healthcare price, but slower than income increases in the United States. Not only that, you can see in surgical prices that there is correlation between income and the price of surgery, for example, because again, as people make more money, they also demand more money as the inputs on labor.
Anyway, whatever.
How stupid do you have to be confused by this?
I want to explain this to Ben Shapiro viewers who may come across this. This argument is the equivalent of saying people who go to McDonald's tend to spend more money on hamburgers. Yeah. Like, it is literally the argument. Yeah, if you go to the doctor, you're going to be someone who spends more money on medical care.
That's a great point.
If you go to the doctor, though, you also tend to be someone who's wealthier because you have the time and money to know that, this trip to the doctor is probably going to cost me something. Because even if I'm covered, I still got to put out of my pocket whatever it is. Maybe your deductible, maybe you just got to pay for whatever's not covered, which sometimes is the medications or the treatment. Yeah. The more money you make, the more money you will spend on healthcare, because in the first place, you are seeking out medical care more often or more frequently in general. Like
the 20 million uninsured aren't included seemingly in this pool, by the way, or I'm not necessarily sure what this data is. It doesn't necessarily matter.
No, American health insurance is expensive and a lot is spent on it. That's actually the problem. That's actually that's half of the citation that Luigi cited. We pay the most. Ben, we know that. The outcome is the problem that we're fucking 42nd.
He doesn't talk about the outcome. Isn't that instructive? Is that he leaves out that part about life expectancy because he does not want to talk about the outcome. Now let's see how the audience responded. Let's scroll down, because maybe this is better. He was getting roasted in his comment section last time he tackled this video. Here we go. My insurance denied our claim when my third child was born. It wasn't a mistake. We fought them for months over it because they finally agreed to pay.
But look at these graphs.
Ben saying Bill is disconnected from audience is insanely ironic. The right and left agree on this issue. The healthcare system is broken. We, the regular people, are the ones suffering, not millionaires. I feel like I'm being gaslit. He's suggesting the CEO of the biggest health insurance company in the U.S. has zero effect on anything around him. Invite Bill on your show, I dare you. It's absolutely rich when Ben says things like, just because you had a bad experience with a health insurance company, and having a bad experience with a health insurance company isn't like when a barista messes up your morning coffee and you hope to get a better one tomorrow. These bad experiences result in people losing their loved ones and being denied prolonged life-saving medication and procedures. Coverage for my husband's asthma inhaler was denied this month for the first time ever. He's had the same prescription for 25 plus years. This is a rich guy trying to say insurance companies are justified charging you thousands of dollars for a hospital visit. Yep. I agree with Bill Burr. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on in this comment section. Do you want to just play the part with the Bill Burr, the clickbait part that he shoved in right before an ad read? It's a little funny. Because again, as we mentioned, we played the other day, Bill Burr was talking, saying, people get it. These health insurance CEOs are crooks. This is how he shoehorned that in there for the views he coveted.
Oh, this brings us to Bill Burr. So I have to say, Bill Burr, I used to really enjoy his work. I mean, on occasion, I still enjoy his work. He's a comedian, which means he's very hit or miss.
I'm sure.
His Red Rock special, for example, hilarious.
Thrilled about
I'm such a Bill Burr fan that I actually bought a ticket for me and my wife and two of our friends to go see Bill Burr at the Hard Rock Casino down here in Hollywood, Florida. And I have to say, it was one of the worst shows I ever saw in my life. Because he got up there, and Bill Burr has become woked. He has become woked, I assume, because
we got him,
his
guys.
wife is very much on the left.
Don't you mean
over time, I think he became embarrassed that many people on the right thought he was very funny. And so he decided that he was going to start woking it up. Well, Bill Burr is a disappointment, sort of like incognito mode on your computer, because they keep telling you that everything you do in incognito mode is incognito.
Did you hear that ad read? Bill Burr's in disappointment, kind of like your incognito mode.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you have it. Social conservative fiscal liberal says, if there's one thing conservatives can't stand, it's the performatively woke comedian Bill Burr.
Oh, wait, I was unfamiliar with who Bill Burr's wife, because he claimed that Bill Burr's only woke because of his wife, and then I looked up who his wife is. And
black woman.
His wife's just a black woman. Yeah, I don't know if she's a liberal.
Kind of says it all, doesn't it?
Right.
I don't know if she's like a leftist activist or something, and she puts her politics out there often. But it seems like she's just like
turned him.
A black woman. Yeah, that was it. That's all.
Look, we'd have great. Bill Burr would have bashed trans people in Hollywood, Florida, if it wasn't for his damn wife.
You're right. It's the wokeness. It's everywhere. You can't even escape it. Even when he's trying to see a comedian he thought was on his side because of the whole white thing.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.